technology recruitment is still hot. Google, your Meta, a lot of the cuts have happened in the corporate functions, but not so much in the technical teams because the teams are not very large to start off with.
Particular tech job functions and skill sets are most in demand in Singapore right now. Welcome to Talent Conversations. I'm Simon Mortlock, Content Manager at eFinancialCareers, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Patricia Teo, who is an Executive Director at Kerry Consulting in Singapore. And today we're going to be talking about tech recruitment in Singapore. So, Patricia, when I spoke to our talent acquisition leaders at banks in Singapore last year, they all said that tech was their number one hiring priority, and they were also facing quite severe talent shortages. Is that still the case in the job market right now?
Yeah, maybe just to set the scene, the last couple of years for tech recruitment have been crazy, off-the-chart demands, largely driven by COVID. And the closed borders, as well as the fact that all companies are going through digital transformation. Come 2022, towards the end of 2022, we realized that there was a slowdown somewhat. So the tech demand has definitely fallen a bit, but the large tech organizations are still hiring, the banks are still hiring, stuff that have been committed to before COVID is still ongoing. A lot of the unfulfilled demand from 2022 is still high. And now we're laying that on with 2023 numbers as well for the planned projects. So in short, technology recruitment is still hot. Although that has chilled somewhat, tech recruitment is also more difficult these days because hiring managers have set the bar a lot higher because they hear about all these tech layoffs that are ongoing. So they believe that they can attract better talent. Management have also given internal talent acquisition teams a hard time because they've said to them that you have to try to do the recruitment directly. These two factors have also created a bit of a challenge in terms of tech recruitment going forward.
So it sounds like there are still skill shortages in the tech job market in Singapore. It's still fairly challenging to hire.
Yes.
What do you think can be done in the short term or in the long term as well to help mitigate these talent shortages?
Yep. So from my time, and I started work 20 years ago, computer science degrees versus today, we've definitely given out a lot more degrees in computer science now. It's a more popular course. The government has also taken healthy steps in making sure that we're attracting tech talent into Singapore. That being said, in the short term, we can't grow the tech population overnight. And what we have been doing is buying the talent from overseas, from more advanced markets. Medium to long term, however, it's probably easier to get existing tech talent trained up for the skill sets that we may not have before, such as blockchain technologies.
And given that a lot of banks, a lot of financial institutions, as you were saying, are still hiring in tech, what particular tech job functions and skill sets are most in demand in Singapore right now?
Yeah, so the local banks and as well as the regional banks with tech hubs in Singapore are still hiring. The main demand have been coming from three areas, data, cyber, as well as infrastructure. So for data, I guess that's really the new gold, as we know. Companies are still trying to figure out how to monetize data, really. So a lot of groundwork has been done in setting up the data strategies, but the question is, where is the ROI coming from data right now? So that's one area we've seen a lot of demand. The second demand, the second specialization is really cyber. So for cybersecurity, given the number of access points today, the vulnerability points, that has gone off the roof in terms of like the cyber specialists that are required. And in a way, we've always had that kind of shortage in Singapore because of the regulators' kind of focus on cybersecurity. Consumer data as well is extremely important. Like you and I today, we want to make sure that whatever we put on the web, whatever we put on the apps are well taken care of. A lot of the high-profile security breaches have also caused us to kind of relook what it means for the reputation of the banks and the financial institutions. They can be built over generations and they can be destroyed overnight. The last area that we've seen quite an uptick in demand is actually infrastructure. So because of COVID, a lot of companies have gone onto the cloud journey, right? And they've gone onto it really quickly without really thinking about, what does it mean in the medium to long term, and whether these are cost-effective methods to go onto the cloud. In the recent months, in this first quarter of 2023, what we've seen is that senior infrastructure leaders who are able to plan long-term infrastructure strategies that are both pragmatic, scalable, and secure have been able to secure very good jobs in the market. Yeah, they're in great demand.
Very interesting about those three job functions. And obviously in Singapore, like in other countries globally, there have been job cuts in big tech firms like Meta and like Google, for example. To what extent have financial institutions been able to hire some of these candidates into their ranks? Is there much of a skills overlap?
Yeah. So actually, this is where the urban myths are, or demystify that. So a lot of the tech giants, they do have hubs in Singapore, and they have large teams in Singapore. But the actual technical talent that they have in the Singapore market is actually very small. So for instance, your Google, your Meta, a lot of the cuts have happened in the corporate functions, such as your customer success roles, your business development roles, your HR roles, your talent acquisition roles, but not so much in the technical teams, because the teams are not very large to start off with. So the overlap is not significant with what the banks are looking for, because they are looking for the guys who are in engineering, the guys who are in cybersecurity, the guys who are in data. There is some small overlap if your skill sets are in the account management, success, customer success teams, where you have very strong delivery background in an end user environment before, and you've kind of made that transition into AWS or your Google and Meta, and that's where your relevance in your previous role would then be suitable for end user environment again today.
So what emerging trends have the potential to disrupt the tech job market in Singapore going forward?
So we've heard about all the high-profile bank failures right now, and of course we are just reeling from the crypto winter and now the tech winter and now the bank failures. So these global trends have definitely caused some jitters amongst the candidates today. Candidates are a bit more careful around the kind of organizations that they are selecting. So there's a flight to safety with the established FIs. So most of our clients who are established financial institutions have really taken the opportunity to speak with candidates and attract them into their organizations, whereas in the last couple of years, they may not even have had initial conversations with them.
Interesting. Thanks, Patricia, for sharing all your insights about the tech job market in Singapore. It sounds like it has sort of got slightly less competitive over the last year, but are still skills short. And thank you all very much for joining our talent conversations today. I think we've all learned a lot about the job market in tech in Singapore.